Do you want to go on safari in Tanzania? What's it like to visit this wildlife destination? In today's video, I'll be breaking down our recent 13-day Tanzania itinerary. I'll be talking about the wildlife parks we visited, featuring some incredible camps and lodges where we stayed, and sharing travel insights about the safari mecca. Keep watching to hear all about traveling in Tanzania, but first, opening sequence. Hello wildlife watchers, welcome back for an all-new Safari Insights video. If you're new here, my name is Jeff Heyer and I'm a safari travel advisor. This means I create custom tailored itineraries for people like you planning to visit Africa. No matter what your dream safari looks like, I can arrange it for you. Sundowners, knowledgeable guides, immersive accommodations, transfers by road or by bush plane, describe your ideal trip to me and I'll arrange it. In the description below this video, you'll find my safari inquiry form. Click on that link, fill out the form, and send it my way. I look forward to receiving your safari inquiry and helping you embark on an unforgettable journey. In today's video, I'll be breaking down our recent 13-day itinerary in Tanzania. I've traveled to Tanzania several times, so while I'm breaking down this latest itinerary I went on, I'll also be mentioning other destinations I've visited before, so you get the full scope of what's out there. Most of this trip took place on mainland Tanzania, but at the end of this video, I'll be sharing what we did with 2 days in Zanzibar. Zanzibar is a popular tourism hotspot, a place many travelers are interested in adding to their Tanzania adventures. So stick around until the end if you're curious to learn more about what we did there. Ultimately, this video is meant to help you envision your own adventure in Tanzania. Joining me on this trip was my executive assistant and safari companion, Shelly, who you'll see throughout this video.
I'm having pinch me moments.
The good news is, Shelly, we don't have to wake up from this dream.
For the record, this trip was considered a luxury tier experience. The accommodations mentioned are in the high-end category. Don't worry if you don't have the means to splurge on a luxury stay every night. I've experienced several low and mid-range accommodations in Tanzania that are awesome too. If you decide to reach out to me about your Tanzania trip, I will work within your means to make sure you have the most comfortable and suitable stay, no matter what your budget is. All right, that's enough context. Let's jump into it, starting with day one. We kicked off our adventure in Tanzania by arriving at the Kilimanjaro airport. Located about 90 minutes outside of Arusha, this is where the majority of international safari travelers fly into. Arusha really is the gateway to the wilds of Tanzania and is the starting point for many safari itinerary circuits. After arrival and driving into the city, we checked into our first lodge, the beautiful Arusha Coffee Lodge. Day two. As mentioned before, we had a slow start to our Tanzania adventure. We decided to stay a full day in Arusha, mostly spent relaxing at our lodge. We took full advantage of everything this lodge had to offer. We enjoyed the amenities in our plantation suite, we took a dip in the pool, and meandered through the gorgeous coffee plantations. Definitely drank a lot of coffee here. I mean, how could you not? You're surrounded by it. You will never escape the aroma of coffee here. Even if you aren't staying at the lodge itself, I recommend stopping at the coffee lodge for a lunch, a coffee break, or just to check out Shanga. Shanga is a social enterprise which employs people with disabilities to create unique handmade crafts. These products are sold in the Shanga shop as well as around the world, with profits being reinvested back into developing opportunities. It's an eye-catching, whimsical shop to explore. Afterwards, you can grab a cup of brew at the next door coffee shop, made with beans produced on site. The food at this lodge was beyond. Fresh, flavorful, and locally sourced cuisine. We did not go hungry here. Again, definitely recommend stopping at the Arusha Coffee Lodge for a meal if you aren't staying at the lodge. Overall, this was a perfect slow-paced day before we really jumped into our safari adventure. Day three. The next morning, we enjoyed our final breakfast at the Coffee Lodge before driving from Arusha to Tarangire National Park. Before leaving the city, we made a stop at a bank to withdraw local currency for our trip. It's always handy and advised to have cash with you so you can purchase locally made goods throughout your travels and have some cash for gratuity purposes. Once you enter the wilderness areas, it's a lot more difficult to find ATMs, so I recommend getting some while you're in the urban areas. Getting to Tarangire National Park was a scenic trip through the Tanzanian countryside. Once we arrived at the park, we checked into the Tarangire Treetops Lodge. And this place? Incredible. You're literally staying in an elevated treehouse style room that overlooks the park. You become part of the baobab trees, truly iconic trees that are a signature of this region. This luxury accommodation became our base camp for the next 3 nights. We were so excited to be back on traditional safari. Once we had settled in, we immediately embarked on our first game drive of the trip. The excursion was led by Stan the man. We also had Mr. T as our skilled wildlife tracker. Now, because we booked our stays at these accommodations on full game packages, we had unlimited game drives in the parks using the lodge's staff and vehicles. We booked this package for most of the lodges on our itinerary, which is why throughout this video you'll see many different faces, vehicles, and guides. Now, this is different than how most people will experience Tanzania, where they have one guide for the entire length of their trip. This might be a more common option for safari travelers, but keep in mind that these higher end lodges offer full game packages. Just wanted to clarify the difference there. Day 4 and day 5. The next 2 days were all about exploring Tarangire National Park. Tarangire is known for its massive elephant population, and we saw hundreds of them here. The landscapes in this park are diverse with rolling savannas and ancient baobab trees. Our guides were amazing at spotting all kinds of wildlife here: zebras, lions, giraffes, you name it. Coming back to this lodge after full excursions in the wild felt like the perfect combo. Our routine was to eat, explore, relax, and repeat. Regarding food at this lodge, the Tarangire Treetops team made each meal stand out. Some meals were bush picnics fully immersed in the wilds, some were lantern-lit dinners by the crackling fires, others had surprise performances from local Maasai people. They did a superb job of making each meal unique and making our stay at Tarangire multi-dimensional. Now on to day 6. On day 6, we embarked on a memorable road trip to the Serengeti. This was a long but very eventful and fascinating drive. Trust me, there's never a dull moment when you're looking out the window in East Africa. On this journey, we passed through the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, which included a stop at the famous crater viewpoint. The view of the Ngorongoro crater from up here is absolutely breathtaking, a massive caldera that just takes your breath away. When Shelly and I sat down for a 60-minute conversation reflecting on our trip, I voted this as the best view of our entire journey. Now, I want to mention that it's very popular for people doing a Tanzania safari circuit to stop in Ngorongoro for several days. And I have done that exact thing before. It's just on this trip in particular, we decided to spend extra time in the Serengeti, which cut out Ngorongoro. Do know that it's very common to stop here for 1 to 3 nights to go on safari inside the crater. And if you haven't been here before, it's absolutely worth exploring. Shelly and I had a hard time driving past it because we had such positive memories here. The nature really is extraordinary. It's one of the most wildlife concentrated places in all of Africa. On this itinerary, however, we were just passing through. We did have an open, unclouded view of the crater, which was amazing. The view always gets me, you guys. After soaking in the scenery, we eventually continued our drive to the Serengeti. This leg of the road trip is seriously one of the coolest areas to drive through. These videos do not do it justice, but there's a certain magic to this region. You will see Maasai communities peppered in the rolling landscapes as you come down from the high elevation crater rim down into the great Serengeti Plains. The world becomes very flat once you've entered the national park. The road you drive on is not. Get ready for a real jostling. Or as they say in Africa, a free African massage.
I feel like I've been a little bit rearranged.
I feel like a tambourine.
Eventually, we made our way into the southwestern part of the Serengeti and checked into the migration camp. I can't wait to talk more about this camp in day 7. This camp is the epitome of the remote luxury safari experience. Realize that nature really is the focus when you're staying here. There are, however, still many amenities and comforts to make the stay as cushy as possible, even in this remote location. From here, we set off on several safari game drives. This was one of our favorite days of the entire trip. Our guide for the duration of our stay was Angel, who was the first female guide we've ever had in East Africa. It was incredible to learn about the bush through her perspective. She set up a gorgeous breakfast out in the Serengeti next to the reflective Lake Magadi. She toured us through ancient rock paintings created by the Dorobo people. She also took us to the Rhino Post. The Rhino Post is a ranger station where they conduct rewilding and conservation work for endangered black rhinos. Serengeti rhinos have become very scarce in number due to poaching, so this post is working to increase and protect remaining populations. If you've been following my work, you know I have a special affinity for rhinos. I really enjoyed stopping at this site. The Serengeti did not disappoint when it came to wildlife viewing. We were blessed with diverse sightings including cheetahs, baby elephants, and more. As if the day couldn't get any better, our candlelit dinner under the starry Tanzanian sky was magical. Shout out to the chefs at this camp for crafting some delectable fine dining meals in such a remote location. I was truly impressed by everything they prepared for us. Day 8. Day 8 was a wild time, you guys. This day was all about our journey to the Northern Serengeti. The plan was to transfer from the Pioneer Camp in the southwestern part of the park to the Migration Camp, which is located in the Northern Serengeti. For the record, the Serengeti is a massive place and you could easily explore it for weeks on end. Really think about how much time you want to spend here because every day will bring its own adventure. Consider visiting the Serengeti for at least 3 days. Safari clients that really want to see as much as possible on their vacation come to me and want to breeze through the Serengeti. I always advise them to spend more time here than they think. So it was time to make our journey north to a whole different part of the park. These 2 camps where we stayed, if you were to drive between them non-stop, would be about a 3-hour drive. But keep in mind, you can't drive that fast in the national park and there could be wildlife viewing opportunities along the way. So this drive took us most of the day, but for good reason though. Our biggest reason is that we made a detour to chase the great wildebeest migration. Perhaps the most iconic natural spectacle in all of Africa is to witness the great wildebeest migration, where millions of wildebeest and hundreds of thousands of zebra travel in a clockwise migratory pattern through the Serengeti, Masai Mara, and Ngorongoro conservation area. Knowing where the largest herds will be and when is never exact, but our guide Mokili was well updated and knew where to search for it. Once we found the herds, it was unmistakable what we were witnessing. These videos do not capture the number of animals we could see sprawled across the Great Plains. This sighting was spectacular. Aside from the migration, we were treated to some lion, elephant, and cheetah sightings along the way. Looking back, this was an epic day of wildlife viewing. The adventure didn't end there. We had a fun time getting stuck in the mud for a good couple of hours. Honestly, we had a blast embracing this safari reality. Recent rains made these roads quite gnarly, and although these vehicles are tough, sometimes they get stuck. We did a lot of trial and error to get ourselves out, but after a few failed attempts, we called the Elawana rescue team to get us out. All of a sudden, there was like 20 men pushing us out of the mud. The travel vlog from this event is hilarious if you haven't seen it yet. Better late than never, we arrived at the migration camp with stories to tell. Days 9 and 10. The next 2 days were packed with adventure. We had more game drives from the migration camp, spotting everything from big cats to huge game herds. One highlight was a walking safari, which gave us a totally different perspective on the Serengeti. It's a much more intimate experience. You feel the pulse of the wild around you in a way that's just not possible in a vehicle. This sounds like a very dangerous thing to do, but I assure you, with well-trained guides, you will be safe. Our guide Moses was very intuitive with watching animal behavior and made sure we were distanced safely and non-intrusively. Thank you to the migration camp staff for making this our home for 3 nights. The food, spectacular. The views, transformative. The comfort, out of this world.
Oh, look at the sky. Whoa.
Day 11. On day 11, we hopped a bush plane from the Serenera airstrip back to Arusha. If you've never taken a small plane over the Serengeti, it's an experience like no other. Seeing the vastness of the landscape from above is just mind-blowing. I found this to be really fun and unlike any other airport experience I've ever had before. Although Shelly and I do like old-fashioned road transfers, it was nice to shave our transfer by 10 hours and fly directly back to Arusha. We spent the night at the Planet Arusha Lodge, which was the perfect place to unwind after a busy safari. Day 12. That concludes the safari leg of our journey on mainland Tanzania. It's now time to go over Zanzibar. For the record, we didn't originally plan to visit Zanzibar on this trip. It's from Arusha. We were booked to fly all the way home, but the universe had other plans for us. Our flight from Arusha was really delayed, so we ended up missing our connection in Zanzibar. Due to the availability of the airlines, we were booked on the next departing flight a few days out, and provided a full package during our layover in Zanzibar. So with that said, this was a spontaneous trip, and a curse turned into a blessing. Good morning, everyone from Zanzibar? What? Truthfully, we wanted to stop in Zanzibar anyway, so it all worked out. Our spontaneous plan in Zanzibar was strung together quickly, but it couldn't have played out better. Lucky for us, I'm a safari travel advisor, so I knew exactly who to call to arrange a last-minute experience beyond just hanging out at the hotel. This is what we did in 48 hours. We started by having a rooftop dinner in Stone Town. This tea house boasts a 360-degree view over Stone Town and the Indian Ocean. Seating is Swahili style on thick Persian rugs with low tables. This was a very unique, delicious dinner with authentic Zanzibari cuisine, fused with Omani and Persian influences. It was fun to enjoy flavors we had never tried before. This is day 13. On our final day, we went on a guided walking tour of Stone Town and Prison Island. We started by riding a water taxi to Prison Island. It was really nice to enjoy the ocean breeze and admire the turquoise waters. We went on this tour blindly and knew nothing about this place. After leaving, we had learned a ton about its fascinating and rather dark history. Believe it or not, there's part of this island that has a giant tortoise sanctuary. In 1919, the British governor of Seychelles gifted 4 tortoises to Prison Island. The tortoises thrived there, and by 1955, there were over 200 of them living on the island. So now you can go view the tortoises. Careful not to trip over them.
He's taken off.
Whoa, don't go past the speed limit. Those tortoises brought me so much joy.
Yeah.
Afterwards, we went back to Stone Town, walked the streets, learned about its history and architecture. We went into the slave trade exhibition, which was intense, but taught us about an important part of Zanzibar's history. We then went to the spice markets and got some spices to take home with us. Overall, a great tour that covered the main features of Stone Town. Later that night, we said farewell to Zanzibar and started the flight journey back home. And that was a breakdown of our Tanzania trip. This itinerary really was epic. Every day brought something new and exciting, and it was an experience we'll never forget. If you're planning your own safari or just dreaming about it, I hope this video gave you some inspiration, ideas, and insights. Again, reach out to me if you want my safari network to draft you a custom itinerary. Send me a safari inquiry and I'll send you an itinerary option. It's from there we can adjust it however you wish until we land the perfect trip. If you enjoyed this video, found it valuable, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Hey, safe travels to Tanzania, and I'll see you next time for more Safari Insight videos.